Hello and welcome to the video for game design for Monday, September 28th. I'm going to go ahead and let people in from the waiting room.
Camera on.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
How you guys doing?
Good.
I'm doing good.
Good.
Good. Anybody have any interesting weekend? Anything to report?
I got one to report. It was kind of funny actually. So long story short, we had we had a friend, me and my other friends, I guess, that he was very toxic and stuff. And he texted us on our console, like gaming message, and he started being rude. So we roasted him back, and I think it was kind of far-fetched. What I mean by that is like it was kind of rude because one of my friends got so mad at him. We said, "Dang, must be so sad to celebrate a birthday without any friends." And I was like, "Oh," because to be fair, what he did was very toxic. So I mean, I don't know. I just left it be.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. What can you do, right? Yeah.
I'm have the house to myself for foreseeably at least 2 weeks, probably four. Partner had to bail on a family emergency to Texas, driving her mom out. So there's
Wow.
that. Yeah. Grandfather's not doing so well, but reportedly improving. They just don't know if he's out of the woods. So
Okay. But you got the place to yourself, huh? That's kind of nice.
it has its ups and downs.
Yeah.
I participated in a little trivia competition on Discord, like on the 23rd, I think.
Oh yeah. How'd you do?
No, I did not win.
Okay. Was it fun though?
Yeah, it was fun. I liked it.
That's cool. Gosh, I wonder how our lives are going to be permanently changed by this virus situation. Like, do you guys think a lot more things are just going to stay online?
I don't
It's
see why
just,
not.
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and there's pros and cons to that, right?
hmm
Yeah. Um, it'll be fun though, maybe a year from now or whenever, if we have a choice to do some more in-person stuff as opposed to all being online. But the online stuff is okay for now. Well, let me go ahead. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, yeah, it's interesting because when all of this first started, my job was like, oh yeah, for the time being, we'll send as many people home as possible. And now they're more like, the longer this lasts, the more it's like, oh, maybe we'll just keep everyone at home. Which
Yeah,
I'm like, oh, I guess like I just work from home forever now.
Yeah, I
I
mean, from
mean,
an economic standpoint, they don't have to pay rent. They don't have all the
Right.
building facility costs. Blah blah blah.
yeah, I mean, I really think there's going to be a major shift. Any company that realizes they can keep people away and save money, that why not do it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, well, let me go over to the class website here. Okay. Okay, is there anybody who was scheduled for a presentation that hasn't given it yet but is ready to give one?
I have something together. I don't know if it's going to be a 5-minute thing, but I've got a presentation that I was doing kind of on the theme of awareness that's going on in the class. I did a thing on disability and gaming design.
Okay. Would you like to give that presentation?
Sure.
Okay.
Let me open it up here. Okay. Which one are we doing here? How do we view?
Oh, well,
How
down
do
here.
you? I'm sorry. I know how to share the screen. I'm just asking. How do you view? If you're using Google Sheets, how do you view the slideshow?
Oh, well, if you bring it up on your screen, I can show you
Sure.
or share.
We're going to say that one.
Okay, up top right corner, present.
Oh, excellent.
Oh, okay, I can see it.
All right. So, the idea is disabled people have been overlooked in many aspects of society, and that I don't even need to go into specific examples for everybody to understand that they've been overlooked. Like you never see wheelchairs, custom controllers, that sort of thing in the mass marketplace, mostly because they're very niche. Part of the thing for how many gamers we have, 15% of the world's population is estimated to be disabled based on the WHO. And with a gaming population of 2.6 billion, that's a little more than a third of the well, it is more than a third of what we have on the planet. And from an economic standpoint, not designing for disability basically alienates 40 million gamers out there. So it doesn't make any sense economically either. So what do they do? In the early days, before they could get custom controllers, there were plenty of people who rebuilt their custom controllers or had their agents rebuild those controllers so that they could play those games properly with their current disabilities. The push for inclusion, particularly the motor skills, was one of the reasons for Able Gamers Charity to spring up and make all these partnerships that it has. Of course, muscular dystrophy is not the only disability that we're trying to design for. Color blindness, as we've seen a couple of weeks ago, is also very important. I've been using Color Oracle, by the way. That is something that's very, very handy if you want to design for different modes of color blindness to make sure everything's visible. So, Able Gamers, I didn't actually know what Able Gamers was back before I did this presentation. So what they have is a development co-op, and essentially what you do is you post up a game, and they have a set of signed up disabled gamers, and they will play your game and give you a review about it, and the feedback is supposed to help influence the development of the game to better handle / understand the disabilities that are presented from the co-op. And of course, they have to be the best source of feedback. They are the ones living with the condition. So this whole plan is actually just a great tool for people to be able to use and say, okay, well, I don't know how my game holds up in this situation. Let's see if we can find somebody with that situation. Let's see. Oh, this is a great example of color blindness design or failure to design for color blindness. If you were to pick your pieces from on the left, go ahead and pick your orange ones, right? That's part of the problem is some of these pastel colors are just too close to each other to be able to make them differentiate. So this is actually from an article that I read. He had these two separate pictures, but what I did is I grabbed them and I also manually ran that picture through the Color Oracle filter. It looked exactly the same. It was great, actually. But yeah, so if you're using color to convey things like suits or player color or anything important, if color is the only way of conveying that message, you probably want to include some sort of shape as well, because otherwise that information might get lost. And that's particularly to the player. Let's see. Oh, this is about the game accessibility guidelines. This is a separate site. What it does is it breaks down the spectrum of disability to various categories, and they accommodate 3 different levels within each of those categories to be able to offer advice for designing games around these particular disabilities. So I thought this was also a very inclusive resource you could use kind of non-interactively to design your game in a way that helps mitigate the impact of disability on the game that you're designing. Of course, here's the categories they have it broken down into. Motor cognitive is a big thing too. Vision, hearing. Oh, hearing is one of those big things. I don't know if I have a slide on it for this one, but subtitles, there's no standards in subtitles for gaming, and some of the horror, some of the bad stories I've seen about subtitles include, not being able to read it. It's against a white background, so it just washes out, that sort of thing. There really needs to be something to help enable subtitles, both for speech, like all lines, including random NPC dude, but also for things like, for things like explosions or important sounds going off. Undertale was actually one of the ones that had to adapt for hearing. They had one puzzle that was purely music based, and they, after a bunch of feedback regarding that, they changed the puzzle to kind of fade in the answer visually for people who are hard of hearing.
Oh wow, that's cool.
Yeah. Also, Moss. So this is a great. Yeah, there's my note about subtitles. This is a great example. So Moss is action adventure puzzle game. Nothing too out of the ordinary that you see in the game description here. But Moss, the main character, actually communicates with sign language to the user. So I thought that was an incredible feature, and it's not even listed in the description. It's hidden, and I don't know why they didn't put that out there as a selling point. But I thought it was amazing, and it's even from the publishers, they're not mentioning the ASL in the game. So there's the links from all my sources. Any questions?
Wow, nice job.
Thanks.
Yeah,
So-
seriously, no question. But just to add, I think it was maybe God of War, some recent game that had come out where they had to retroactively go back and fix the subtitles because they were so small people couldn't read them. It's just interesting to think, like, for people who can't hear and not be able to see what's going on or read the subtitles. It's like, oh god, it's got to be horrible.
Right, and not even for if they're deaf, if you've got a
Right.
if you've got a voice actor in there and somebody has a hard time understanding their accent, then they're lost, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, it makes you realize that most people make games for just the mainstream, but there's so many other. I mean, look at all the types of disabilities that Jazz mentioned, and then there's 3 levels to each of those. I mean, how many does that add up to, right?
Right.
18.
Yeah. Okay. 15. It's a lot. Yeah, so probably all of us could be more aware of that, and then if we're lucky enough to develop games in the industry or even create independent games, then something to think about. Okay, nice job. Yay.
Thanks.
It's good.
Just stop sharing here. I think that's the presentation. Have I stopped sharing or no? Oh, there we go.
Not yet.
There we go.
There we go. Okay. All right, so let's see. Let me go ahead and share for a second and go over here to the site. Okay, so I've got an article here for you about Amazon's new cloud gaming service called Luna. Have you guys heard about this?
No, I've never heard it before.
Yeah, no, I haven't either.
I'm also not following the news, so.
A little bit, but it just was announced this last week, so.
Yeah, it's the 24th is when this is dated for, but it says that it's 2020 hardware event today. Amazon announced a cloud gaming platform called Luna. The news isn't too surprising. The service has been rumored since last year, previously codenamed Tempo, while an Amazon-made game controller leaked out just ahead of today's event. It's not clear when Luna will launch widely, but it will initially be available on PC, Mac, Fire TV, and iPhone and iPad. with an Android version planned for after launch. Let's see, service will be there for an introductory price of $6 a month. It gives subscribers the ability to play Luna Plus channel games across 2 devices simultaneously and offer 4K 60 frames per second resolution for select titles. Naturally be powered by Amazon's ubiquitous web platform. Amazon says that more than 100 games will be available via the Luna Plus channel, and launch titles include Resident Evil 7, Control, Panzer Dragoon, A Plague Tale Innocence, The Surge 2, Yooka-Laylee, Grid, Abzu, and Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons. Amazon says more titles will be added over time. The company has also partnered with Ubisoft for a specific gaming channel. Here's how Amazon describes it. Players who subscribe to this channel will have access to their favorite Ubisoft titles in up to 4K resolution, mobile gameplay, and access to new titles when the channel launches, like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Far Cry 6, and Immortals Phoenix Rising the same day they release. This is the first of multiple Luna game channels in development where customers can play games from their favorite publishers and genres. And then this is the example of the new controller.
Very shiny.
Yeah.
And it says Luna will also feature Twitch integration. Inside the Luna experience, players will see Twitch streams for games in the service, and from Twitch, they'll be able to instantly start playing Luna games. It says games can be played with a mouse and keyboard or a Bluetooth controller. And Amazon has also announced its own Alexa-enabled Luna controller, which cost $50 during the early access period. And that's that bad boy up there. It'd be interesting to see, given Jazz's just presentation that he just gave, if they've incorporated anything for people with disabilities into their controller. Anyway, yeah, this is kind of a funny paragraph down here. Amazon has had a curious relationship with gaming over the years, dabbling in various different businesses. In addition to owning the streaming services Twitch, Amazon has developed its own games, including the online shooter Crucible, which had such a poor launch it quickly went back into closed beta. The company is also working on a massively multiplayer game called New World, which was originally slated to debut this summer before being delayed to 2021. Yeah, so that's it. That's the information. I saw this funny comment. Somebody said, "Oh, it looks like Amazon has created a cable company for games, right?" So, and it kind of is like that. It's like there'll be these different streams that you can jump into, kind of like changing channels on the cable TV or something like that.
Yeah, it's a
Right.
Netflix for games.
Yeah. So is
Does
this
sound
like
like that.
basically Google Stadia?
Well, it says that it is in direct competition with Google Stadia
Okay.
and Microsoft xCloud.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, everybody's jumping on that train. But
I think it's
Right.
pretty cool for the casual scene. I don't think this will go competitive very much. There's just so much input lag if you're playing a game on another server.
Oh, right.
yeah, yeah, it's pretty cool though. Okay, so I just want to share that article with you guys. And then I've got a blog post for you. So basically, I've been working on this game for about 6 months now. And a lot of my posts come from revelations I have during the game. So this is one of them. It's called The Beauty of Deadlines. So I basically talk about how I hate deadlines, but I kind of have a love-hate relationship with deadlines because it's the only thing that gets me to finish my work is a damn deadline, right? So I have this game that I've been working on for 6 months, and I've changed the characters in the game several times. And recently, I'm working with a couple of people on developing the game, and somebody had a really good idea. They're like, the characters should be robots. And I'm like, yes, robots, that's perfect, right? So I designed these 4 robots here to go into the game. And we liked them, but we were like, oh, I think people should have more variety. There should be at least twice that many robots for people to choose from, So I'm like, okay, I'll make some more robots. So I made another set of robots. I made these guys down here. And, you saw this robot last week, but so I was working on these robots, and the first set looks a certain way, and the second set looks a different way, and I was like, what am I going to do? Should I change the second set to look like the first, or vice versa, or should I throw some out and more of a different kind. So I didn't know what to do. I was kind of stuck. But then all of a sudden, a deadline materialized itself out of thin air and helped me make the decision. And what it was there's this sticker company that I use called Sticker Mule. Have any of you guys ever heard of Sticker Mule?
No,
No.
I've never heard of it.
Okay. I know stickers are kind of a weird thing, but like this company is the best in the world at making stickers. And they can make any kind of stickers you want, cutout stickers, magnets, they make coasters, you name it, right? And they do a great job. You basically upload your art to them, and within 4 hours, they will send you a proof of what your artwork's going to look like, and you can tell them, oh no, I want to make this change, let me upload a new file or whatever. You work with the person on the other end, and once you've got it looking the way you want, you hit a button, it goes into production, and you get it like a week later. You get your order, and it's perfect. It's great. Not only that, but they do this thing. They under promise and over deliver. They always say that you're going to get your order at a certain day, and they make sure and send it to you 2 days early, so you get that warm fuzzy feeling. Yeah, I know, it's kind of cool, right?
Yeah, it's
I
awesome.
mean, it's predictable what they're doing, but you can't. It's psychological. You can't help it. You're like, oh, it came early.
I
Well,
know, right? I can't help but be excited to get it
yeah.
early.
And then the other thing they do is they always give you a couple more sticker sheets than you bought, because and once
Oh.
again, it's the way they do business. They probably always print a couple extra sticker sheets in case there's an error, right?
Right.
But then they just give you those free. So everything about this company is really cool. But anyway, so I'm sitting here trying to make a decision about my robots like 2 days ago. And all of a sudden I get this email from Sticker Mule. They're like, we're having a 1-day sale on our sticker sheets, And the sticker sheets, they look like this. They're the smaller ones are 4x6, and you can get them in any size. And they're like, we're going to give you 50 sticker sheets, which are normally $117 for $29. I'm like, what? So, but it just so happens that these sticker sheets are exactly what I was going to use to make stickers of my robot to stick onto these little cardboard standees to use in the game. So, boom, this message comes up, and they're like, you have, today to decide what you're going to print at our incredible deal. And so I was like, oh, deadline, I got to make a decision. So, I talked to one of the people I was working with on this game, and they're like, you guys have heard that phrase, kill your darlings? Have you ever heard that phrase?
No.
Okay. So kill your
Yeah.
darlings refers to the fact that if you're developing something and you've developed like a number of things and you're just kind of in love with every aspect of this project, sometimes you have to kill off some of the things that you really like so that the stronger things can move forward, right? So we looked at this and we said, you know what? I think that these robots on the bottom are stronger than the ones on the top. So we got to kill off our darlings. We got to toss these guys to the curb. The top round of robots is gone, right? So we got rid of those guys. We're like, okay, let's just concentrate on these guys. Like, okay, good. We made that decision because we're being forced to by this deadline. It's like, no, you have to move today. You got to make this happen. And the next decision we made is like, well, we've got 4 players in this game, 2 to 4 players. So what's going to happen is everybody going to have one robot. It's kind of like a Rock'em Sock'em Robots game. The robots fight, right? And is everybody going to have one robot, or are we going to give everybody all the robots? So we decided it's more fun for everybody to have all the robots than just have one, because that's kind of boring. So that meant, since there's 4 teams and 4 colors, red, yellow, blue, and green, that we have to make 4 teams of these robots where they're all the same color, And then that's just for these 4 robots over here. And then we decided that since this guy here is the giant brain with the gears in it, why doesn't he be the boss robot that you fight after you defeat all these sort of soldier bots, right? So that's the decision we made. So then I had to go in and do any final work on the art for this. I had to make 4 versions of these robots where they were all different colors and make sure all the colors worked. And then I had to lay them out according to the template for Sticker Mule and get them all uploaded, proofed, and approved before their deadline, right? And I managed to do that because it was on the weekend and I was excited. I was like, oh, let's get this done. It's going to move the game forward. So Sure enough, that's what I did, and this is how they ended up. This is an example of the yellow team, right? So the little outlines that you see, those are the little cardboard standees that these guys are going to be on. And so this is the example of a template that I sent up to Sticker Mule. They're going to print these little stickers, and then the people who buy the game will stick those on the standees and put them in little standee stands and move their characters around. So I was thrilled. I mean, like I said, I was at this quandary where I developed these different kinds of characters. I didn't know what to do. This deadline came along, and it just forced me into action, and I moved the game forward. And so, I'm just using this as an example of how deadlines can help. You guys may have realized that yourself. Those of you who showed us the prototypes last week, you had a deadline, so you had to get something done. You had to get something into Tabletop Simulator, and that pushed you forward, right? So anyway, that's the blog post for today. Let me go back here. Okay, so the next thing was, I had asked you guys about elevator pitches, and of course you were working on your games, so that was a secondary priority. We heard some of them, but I'm wondering if anybody else got an elevator pitch done for their game. And silence overtakes the stadium.
Indeed.
Uh,
Yeah, I was
I-
working on implementing those new ideas. I didn't get a chance to sit down and write.
Yeah, I know. I get it. The game is the priority. I just, I was hoping that at some point, why don't we do this? At some point, when you guys have a spare moment, right? Write out an elevator pitch because it will help you focus the game. It's how you would describe the game to somebody. Okay, and then along the same lines, and you guys are all working on stuff, so you may not have gotten this done, but is there anyone else who got our prototype done that we haven't seen yet?
I mean, yeah, so for ours, the Cthulhu one, we haven't got it in a playable state yet because we're just still needing to import the enemy cards into the game, which will hopefully be done by Wednesday. But I could just
Okay.
show you what we have.
Would you rather do that, or would you rather
Yeah,
show
I think it would be better to actually be able to play it on Wednesday. But I just we have the player cards imported and everything for now.
Okay, so you just want to show us on Wednesday. That's your preferred route.
Yeah, just so I can hopefully be able to show you guys how it plays and everything.
Yeah, that's fine. And maybe the other teams or individuals who are working on things, maybe if you guys want to use Wednesday as a deadline to try and show us something, even just get some placeholders into Tabletop Simulator so that we can kind of see where you're headed and start to give you guys some feedback, right? Okay, so those of you who did show us prototypes, so the battleship type game, the Man of War, and the Jazz's team, what type of things did you work on after getting some feedback about the game? What ideas have you had a chance to work on it at all?
So I
ahead, Jess.
reworked. Thanks. So I reworked the interplay mechanics. I created a new deck to help out with that gap that was always filled by this mysterious infamy or whatever. So I took your suggestion about players earning the PvP cards by completing missions, and I just threw all of that into a deck I called Intrigue, and it's got all the debuff cards in it.
Cool. Okay.
I also modified the template because they're not supposed to be permanent debuffs, but I wanted them to stick around a while. So there's like a little corner for a D6 to sit, and you can just tick down the duration.
Oh, okay. Cool. And is the duration rounds, or is it actual time, or what?
It would be rounds.
Okay. Cool. All right. And then what about Man of War? Did you guys come up with any ideas for changes for that?
Yeah, we we increased the size of the grid, so it's instead of being like the 36 that it was when we were displaying it, it's 24 now.
Okay.
And we also do have an elevator pitch.
Oh,
I just
great.
yeah.
Do you want to
We
share
do.
your screen, or do you want me to find it in your folder? What would you like to do?
Well, it's
Here.
just in Discord as far as I know.
Here, give me just a sec. Let me find it real quick.
Yeah, you can always just read it if you want.
All right, I'm looking for it now.
Here, I pinned it in Discord.
Can I read it though? I would
Yeah.
like to read
Yeah,
it,
you can read
please.
it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Let me just find it real quick. Discord. Okay. All right. You want to hear what everybody wanted when they were a wee little swashbuckler. If you said scurvy, weevil riddled flour cakes, and dysentery, you'd be somewhat correct. Every kid has seen a movie or five that have the wondrous lives of pirates. And let me learn you a thing or two about pirate life. It absolutely sucked. But with the tabletop game Man of War, it's all the good things about being a pirate without the horrific sight of mutilating your adversaries. Maybe. Naval battles with a handful of unique ships, strategy building, dominating the opponent by capturing islands, and imagining all the wayward souls you've slaughtered in your endless thirst for absolute control and power. Man of War. That's it. Yeah.
Nice.
Nice.
I am stuttering.
Oh, it's okay. I think we get the gist. What do you guys think? Does it sound appealing to you?
Yeah, I like it. It's just like the perfect. I mean, and it's funny because like, especially now for some reason, a lot of humor is kind of associated with like pirates, and it's just kind of funny sometimes. I love that take on it. So sounds fun.
Yeah, it's funny. It's sort of like there's the Disney sort of Pirates of the Caribbean, and I'm talking about the cartoons before the whole series of movies. There was the romanticized pirate, which is just like a swashbuckling. Like in the early part of the 20th century, they had Errol Flynn, this movie star, swinging from ropes, and he was this handsome pirate that everybody wanted to be. There's that, but then there's sort of the real world, the scurvy and everything, and I love
Yeah.
to bring that into it because that's sort of like that's kind of like the difference between Batman in the 1980s and Batman in the 2000s. You've got Christopher Nolan's gritty Batman trilogy, and it's like everything nowadays is kind of turned upside down. It's like a rock, you turn it upside down, and now we're looking at all the critters that are underneath it. So it's interesting, and you can still give us the pirate appeal, but also say, hey, there's kind of an appeal to the grungy side of it too, which is like slashing and burning your way through this tropical paradise, right? Now, I have a question for you about your Man of War pirate game. Do you guys have plans to create like characters that are like pirate captains and shipmates, or is it the focus just going to be on the ships and the battles and stuff?
As far as we were planning it out, we were focusing mostly on the ships, but we were gonna have like captain cards, so you could equip a captain to your fleet.
Okay. Yeah, because I think your game is great and it's super fun, but I think the captain cards, the sort of avatar aspect of that, might be really, really nice. I want to show you something. Let's see. Uh, Once again, referring to stickers here. There's, hold on a second, stickers. Let me go here. Okay. All right. So, I developed this comic book with a friend of mine called Steelbeard, which is a pirate comic, right? And then I had a student who was very talented illustrator, and we had designed some characters in this comic. And I thought, oh, wouldn't it be fun to make this comic into a game? And in that case, we would want the characters to be avatars, right?
Mhm.
So I had this student look at the comic and take each of the main characters and turn them into an avatar and try and give them as much personality as possible. So what she did was, she took these characters and she drew them in her own unique style, and tried to give them each one a personality. You can see this guy's got his little knives and his eye patch. This guy's got a cigarette. This one has the backstory behind this guy is he's got a little spyglass that you look through, but he can actually see the future in it, and he's crying because it's not good, right? And then this is sort of a woman who her name is Angel, but of course she'll break your bones. And this is a guy who wears garlic around his neck, so they call him Stinky. But anyway, the point is, you know, if you do move in that direction, it'd be really fun to equip your players with avatars that they can play that help enhance the sort of swashbuckling pirate aspect of it. Okay. Any other changes that you guys have made to your game based on the feedback you got?
A factor that we ran into was our poker game was coming up with like a value of the coins,
Okay.
of the chips rather, and because right now, because we're gonna have symbols on them, and we wanna have a way to distinguish some type of value for that. So that's kind of what we're working on. We're just thinking of maybe having like like a card that shows the value of the stickers, and it'll probably be like, say in a real game, it would be the first card you open from the deck, just showing the values of each chip and symbol and what they're worth, kind of.
Okay, that's a really good idea. Yeah. And
yeah, Coulter was, he ran into that, and I was like, yeah, that's actually a really big thing, because that's something players aren't going to want to add their own, do the math, and while they're playing a game and stuff. So
yeah, it's hard to figure out a money system that will accomplish your goals but not be hard for players to keep track of, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
we're just figuring all that out right now.
Okay, cool. All right. Let's see. So I think what I want to do is I just want to very briefly share some game design concepts with you guys, and then give you the rest of the period to work with your teams, or if you're a solo team, work by yourself. Develop your games a little more. See if you can get them to a point where, if we haven't seen anything in Tabletop Simulator yet, we can see something on Wednesday. And if we have seen it, then maybe you can take it to the next level. So what I'm going to do is, I've got this link here for what I'm calling Chapter 2, and this is from this Challenges game design book, the PDF, which I posted earlier in the semester. So these are just a few, there's not very many, a few terms to define and discuss a little bit. So the first one is called game state. And what it is it's the state of the game if you were to click the pause button during gameplay. All relevant virtual information that may change during play, right? So, clearly in a video game, that's pretty easy to imagine. You just hit the pause button, that's the game state. But it's harder, it's a little more difficult to imagine if it's something like a board game or a card game, because then it's like all the players and in the exact positions that they're in, who has what cards, it's where things are. And the fact that there is such a thing as a game state, and the fact that it can be changed, can affect your game. Like, have any of you guys ever played a game where there's like some card or some factor that can happen that can suddenly change the whole game?
Yeah, I played some.
Yeah.
I've played a few, like some that break their core mechanics. That sort of stuff typically gets weeded out, but I've played a few that are like that.
Yeah, and some people, I mean, yeah, you're right about them getting weeded out, because some people don't like that, but some people it can be a breath of fresh air. Like, you can be in the middle of the game and you pick up a card, and all of a sudden, it's almost like musical chairs. It's like, okay, now you're switching teams. What? Now I have to go play his characters, right? So what that is it's taking advantage of the game state wherever things are, and then you're making a change, and now you're approaching the game differently It's the same game state, but what you've done is you've changed the mechanics, you've changed the rules. Now this guy's in charge of that army, and this guy's in charge of that army. Or maybe now you just introduce some new factor, like, okay, now there's a virus and everybody's -10, right? So knowing what the game state is can help you with changes like that if you want to make them. Another thing that's interesting about game state is game state, it also refers to all the information that is sort of public, that everybody can know, right? And of course, things that are hidden, like cards, you can't know that because it's hidden. Now, there is one game out there, an extremely popular game. It's a board game where there is no hidden information whatsoever. Does anyone know what that is?
No. Can't think.
Okay. It's chess.
Ah ha ha.
Chess, has been called the game with no hidden information. Everything is on the field, right?
Right.
You know everybody's power, you know their strength, you know their movement, and in that it's a strength, because without knowing everything about where everybody is in chess, there's no way you'd be able to pull that game off, right? Okay, so, and this goes into the next definition, which is game view, the portions of the game state that the player can view. So, once again, in chess, the game view is 100%. Any game where you have cards, suddenly the game view becomes much more truncated. But you can mess with that. Like you can, for example, in the game Exploding Kittens, the card game, there's a choice, there's a card you can pick up that lets you look at somebody else's hand. And so that changes your game view and increases your abilities, A game space is a definition for the entire area of the game. The avatar is, of course, the token, the pawn, or the player representation. And then we have this generic term for all of the little pieces of a game. They're called game bits. And so that's, all the property cards, dice, etc. For a board game. In video games, these are referred to as art assets, icons, sprites, and models. They're referred to as objects when discussing from a programming perspective. And they can also be referred to, of course, as NPCs or non-player characters, items, monsters, enemies, etc. Now, game mechanics we know about. Those are the rules, how something happens. Mechanics are the ingredients of game design. And it says you can search board games by mechanics at boardgamegeek.com. Now, those of you who don't know about this site, Board Game Geek, it's probably the premier site for information about board games. They have huge online communities. They rank all of the board games out there. They have all these different, criteria for ranking board games. So if you're interested in seeing what good board games are out there, you can go there. You can submit board games to them and they'll review them. So it's just a wonderful community. In fact, just this weekend, Board Game Geek, the local Tucson chapter, had a board game exchange at Reed Park. And the way it worked was you go on Facebook and you can join this group for free, right? And what happened was they had 10 pages worth of board games that people posted, and that people are like, I've played this game for a couple of years, I'd like to sell it to somebody and get a new game, and it's in perfect condition because I take good care of all my games, right? So people listed all their games, and then other people came in and said, I want to buy that one, I'd like to get this one, I'd like to get this one. And then on Saturday, everybody just met at Reed Park, and you would just find the person who you reserved a game with. They'd give you the game, you give them $30 or whatever, and boom, you came home with a stack of new games. So that's just sort of Board Game Geek is the international version of this, and then the local chapter, is where you could do things like what happened this weekend, or you could meet up at game stores and play games in the back room or whatever. Of course, this was pre-COVID, but some people still have gaming parties. Some people are still going to the stores and playing games. You just have to, be careful in that scenario. But anyway, these are some of the common mechanics from Board Game Geek. So setup, which is the rules for how the game begins, right? And obviously, the quicker the setup, the quicker people can get into the game, and presumably the more fun they'll have. But you could flip that on its head, and if it's a game that's very challenging, it might be a longer setup because you're going to play for 4 hours, and in that case, the setup could be part of the fun, right? We of course have victory conditions, rules that describe how players win. Some games like open-ended RPGs, which are role-playing games, have no victory conditions, right? The victory condition is just playing the game. Essentially, that's the fun, right? We have something called progression of play, which is who goes first in this case. The most common is, clockwise, right? Who goes first and how do they proceed? Is the game turn-based or is it in real time? Now, there's some other progression of play mechanics, like, I don't know, have you guys ever heard this one? Whoever's the oldest gets to go first. Have you ever played a game like that?
Yeah,
No,
pretty
that's so
common in
interesting.
households with
Yes.
perpetual player twos.
Isn't that how Uno works? Whoever's the youngest goes first.
Yeah. So whoever, like, you can make up whatever kind of rules you want. Whoever's tallest, whoever's got the most money in their pocket. I mean, you could have fun with it, especially if it applies to the game itself. Now, I've got a game here I got to grab real quick. Hold on just one second. Now, I told you guys about this this board game exchange thing that happened this weekend. I got a game at that. I'm gonna change the lighting on my window here so you guys can see this. Let's see. Okay, so this is the game that I got. It's called Pendulum, and I'll try and pull this back so you can see the game artwork. And I wanted to get this game because it's made by this guy, Jamie, who works for, he started a company called Stonemeyer Games. And he's been really successful. They're the game company that put out board games like Wingspan and Scythe and games like that. And I read about this game. It's brand new. In fact, it doesn't even come out in the stores till October. So I don't know how this guy got the advanced copy. But
Whoa.
what's really cool about it is it's a real-time game. So it's not really turn-based. It's like, you do your setup and then, the game starts and people basically just do things in real time, like move your characters, collect gold, buy things, That's why it's called Pendulum, because of the time aspect of it. But I thought, oh, how cool would that be to play a board game where everything's happening in real time? It just seems like it would be a lot more exciting than the whole turn-based thing. So, the progression of play in that case is real time, right? Okay, so the next definition here is called player action. Let me see if I can get this a little bigger here. So player action, sometimes referred to as verbs. They describe what players can and cannot do and what effect those actions will have on the game state. So keep in mind that there's always a game state, and anything that you do that changes it changes, the game, right? So for example, a verb, players can move, right? If they move, they might get eaten by a monster. How does that change the game state, right? Or the opposite, a player is paralyzed. If one player is paralyzed, how does that affect the game state for everybody else? Other people can move and move ahead of them, right? And potentially win the game because they're moving faster, right? Okay, so verbs is the key term there. Whatever a player, whatever type of action a player can take, or maybe like a debuff for whatever they're being disabled, if you forgive the term, from doing, whatever they're being stopped from doing, is also, in a sense, it's a verb. It's like an action verb or an inaction verb, what you're being stopped from doing. Okay, the next thing, dynamics. Of course, we've talked about the pattern of play that comes from the mechanics once they're set. So dynamics, a rule, a mechanic is something like you roll your dice and you move the player, the token. And a dynamic is when your friend screams, "Oh my God, you got the gold!" That's the dynamic. It's the reaction that people have to the game, right? The metagame, which are the dynamics that are not part of the play experience, right? This also kind of comes into the dynamics, and this, of course, is very true online. This is negotiations, discussions, alliances, online chat, trash talk, etc., right? I know that when I play board games, like with my girlfriend, half the fun is that this perfectly nice person, the second we sit down at a board game, she suddenly becomes a competitive enemy and wants to destroy everything that I do, right? And
Yeah.
starts talking trash, like, taking my players. I remember I designed a game and a board game, and it was kind of like a Dungeons and Dragons, kind of like, move your armies and fight people kind of thing. And she was the first person I tested it with. And the first thing she did was took one of my guys prisoner and started torturing him, right? And I'm like, wait a minute, you can't do that. There's no torture in this game. She's like, I just created it, I just invented it. I'm like, what is with you? Maybe I should get a new relationship. Anyway, but that's what I'm talking about. Is like the trash talk, the chatting, the alliances, the way you backstab people. That's half the fun in gaming, right? Especially
Right.
online.
I know. It's funny, like, because, like, I've had, like, I played card games with my girlfriend, and she, at the beginning, is like, oh, I don't know how to play this. I'm kind of nervous. And then when she learns the rules, she gets so competitive that she refuses to lose by the end of it, and she always wins. And I'm like, at the beginning, she was so nervous to even try it.
Pretty soon she's taking cards and like slashing at your jugular, right?
Yeah, and I'm like, what? Where did this come from?
Yeah, right. What happened? Okay, let's see. A couple more terms here. Goals. There can be various goals, and of course, there's the ultimate goal of winning the game. Some goals are called missions or quests. Goals typically provide rewards that motivate players to defeat creatures, search for treasure, equip themselves better, and compete with their friends. Now, all of these mechanics and rules and norms um, that we're talking about here, they can all be turned on their head, because you're always trying to create a game that does something a little differently that stands out. So, that game Gloom that we talked about, the goal was to make your family as miserable as possible, right? While making other people happy. And then whoever was the most miserable won. So that's turning something on its head. Your goal of your game could be to lose the most gold, or whatever it would take to make it interesting and different enough to make it stand out. And then, of course, the last thing here is theme, what a game is about, also referred to as color, story, or narrative. We can also call that aesthetics, right? So we've talked about the three pillars of game design: mechanics, aesthetics, and dynamics. But this is very interesting because sometimes we don't think down to the specific level of these words here, like color, story, and narrative. So, especially with narrative, like, every game that you create, it's pretty easy to create a backstory for it. Like, okay, you're pirates at a certain period of time in a certain part of the world, and you're trying to achieve these goals. Okay, that's a backstory, right? The color can be all the shadings of information that you provide, like, there's a war going on, and the Spanish fleet is, entering the game board, and you and the other pirates might unite and fight them, or that's a little bit of color. But the narrative is also very interesting too, which is like, you have backstory, but then what is the current story? What is the story that is either starting the game, or maybe there's a story that's developing as the game progresses? Have any of you guys ever played games where the story is slowly unlocked?
I want to
Kind of.
say Camelot is kind of like that.
Okay. Does somebody else have something?
Well, I was thinking about I guess kind of like I hadn't played either of the first two Witcher games, but when I played the third one, you start off and it's like the main character Geralt has amnesia. And so as you play the game and run into more people, they're like, "Hey, remember me? We went and did that thing." And then you start to learn more about the story and everything of why he's there after getting amnesia. It's like
Right.
the one thing I could think of.
It's a great example, and Jazz mentioned Camelot. So, in other words, another thing you can do in addition to the aesthetics of the game and the backstory is you can progress the game, you can evolve the game by progressing the narrative. By providing new information that changes the game state, because now he has less amnesia and knows, like, maybe I don't know what the goal of that Witcher game was that you played. I saw the Witcher series on Netflix and enjoyed it, but the you know, maybe when you start the game, I'm not saying this is true with Witcher, but maybe when you start a game that you designed, you actually don't know the goal. You don't know the mission, right?
Yeah,
And
that would be interesting.
yeah, and then what you have to do is, as you progress, it becomes slowly, unveiled, and maybe it becomes unveiled at different rates to different people
Oh
because
yeah.
they're going doing different missions and stuff like that. And so, or maybe there's even tricks. Maybe some information is bad information that leads you down a dead end, right?
Right.
So, narrative is a sometimes overlooked aspect of game design.
Yeah.
Um, okay, well, and that's it. These are just some of the terms that I wanted to define. So what we're going to do now is just give you guys the rest of the period to work on your games. And hopefully we can check some of them out on Wednesday and see what you guys have done. Any questions from you guys before we get to work on our games? Okay. All right. Why don't you guys break into your groups and have fun? And I'll stay online here. I'm going to turn my video off, but if you have a question, just jump in and I'll pop in and answer. Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks.